Hey guys, welcome back. This is Bots Obsession, and today we're going through your Transformer hot takes. I asked on Discord and YouTube what your guys' Transformers hot takes were, and we're going to go through them. Starting with the ones from the Discord. If you want to join, link in the description. So we have Proton, shout out Patreon supporter Proton Collectibles, and Super Megatron. Proton says Skids and Mudflap are what makes Revenge of the Fallen great. That is, in fact, a very hot take. Whoo boy. I don't know how to properly answer this one, but rewatching Revenge of the Fallen, like, Skids and Mudflap aren't as intrusive to the movie as a lot of people initially like or make it sound like. I will say they're not nearly as bad in terms of like plot intrusion. I do think that they're very, very stereotypical. I don't know if that's what makes the movie great. I don't think that movie's very good at all. Super Megatron says, I think the Energon toy line is not as bad as people say it is. Probably. I haven't messed a lot with Energon toys, but I do remember having Energon Strong Arm and those Omnicons. Those guys are really, really good. There's a lot of like really good Energon stuff that I think people overlook because of how bad some of the other stuff is. But even looking at Unicron trilogy things, there's plenty of stinkers in each. We have Maka, my friend Maka, who sent in that Megatronia for review. He says that Earthrise RC is a great representation of the character and 86 RC is mid. I like 86 RC, but I also like RCs that can actually integrate with their vehicle mode, which is probably why I've been eyeballing Generations RC. To each their own. I know his stance on this, and I've heard him talk about this many times, so I get where he's coming from, but I don't necessarily agree. I think I like 86 RC a bit better. We got a few going on here. We have Pyro saying, Buzzworthy Bumblebee was a terrible toy line. It had some pretty good stuff, but if you don't live near a Target, you're screwed, I guess. So you can kind of wait until they show up at Ollie's. I wouldn't say Buzzworthy Bumblebee was a terrible toy line. There's some really good stuff in there. The Origins figures are pretty good. Toe line was great. But yeah, a lot of the repaints that ended up in Buzzworthy were kind of like, why is this here? And the fact that there's like an exclusive Studio Series figure, the cup and the Cliff Jumper, that's really strange. Yorhot says Revenge of the Fallen Devastator is the best combiner, and I don't know if there's a hotter take on here. That's a pretty hot take. Cart Guy, shout out Patreon supporter Grim Lockdown, says y'all are too hard on Beast Machines. I totally agree with this. If you haven't seen Beast Machines lately, it actually has a pretty interesting story once you get past the fact the characters are really, really ugly. But the story in Beast Machines is pretty alright. Next up we have channel member Rain, who says Legacy Hotshot doesn't look that good. He says that this is Cybertron Hotshot. I don't know if I agree with this. I actually quite like the Cybertron Hotshot. You can check out my review here in this iCard. But yeah, pretty good figure, honestly. I think you're giving it a little too much hate, but we'll see when Excellion comes out, am I right? And then Stellaris Prime says Studio Series Hot Rod is the most overrated Studio Series figure. He's talking about the Last Night figure. I don't know. I don't collect Studio Series, so I have no idea. I can't really speak on that. Editor Nod here. I'm about to read Jake State Farm's hot take, and then it's a huge list. After reading the initial one, I used the pronouns he, him. Jake State Farm is a they, them. I got caught up reading the hot take and just going down the list that I forgot whose question or hot take I was reading. That is my bad, and I apologize, but I wanted to put that in here just to clarify. We got a huge list from Jake State Farm from the Discord. He says the gamer line is not destined for the future. It's just having the same growing pain Studio Series first had. 100% agree here that like the first few waves of Studio Series, it was very hit or miss. If you look back on it, I think we're in that same thing with the gamer edition, because even if you look at like the differences between Barricade and the generic Trooper, there's vast improvements there. So I have to agree with this one. He also says Legacy Knockout is a good figure. 100%. I think a lot of people give Legacy Knockout a bunch of way too much crap, and I think it's not a horrible figure. I think that if you like the Studio Series Jazz mold, which is pretty good, you're going to like Knockout. The Michael Bay movies were not entirely bad as some people say. They suffer from bad writing and focus on unlikable humans. Yeah, humans in Transformers media, never great. Like, just, I mean, there's some good ones, but the Michael Bay movies, yeah, I specifically really like Dark of the Moon. That's my personal favorite of the Michael Bay ones, but I know people who really enjoy the Revenge of the Fallen or the first one. So it's not that they're bad. They were great when they came out, and we would not be where we are with the franchise if it wasn't for the Michael Bay movies. The live action Ironhide and Sideswipe are the best takes on the character. Yeah, love those versions. Ironhide and Sideswipe scene in Dark of the Moon where they have the little Mexican standoff. That's great. Perfect. Wonderful. Rampage having 3 modes can be done with a new figure. He's specifically talking about Beast Wars Rampage here, and I would say that that's true. I think that one of the big reasons that we haven't seen Transmetal characters is because Hasbro doesn't want to do the 3rd modes, but it also could be the Chrome. It could be a lot of things, but we'll see. Updated Transmetal Beast Wars figures can be easily done. Hasbro is just cowards, as well as aside from Rampage, their sort of vehicle modes are brain dead easy to include. He did actually send a little example of the ones who appeared in the show, that being Megatron, Primal, and Cheetor, and was like, look how easy these are. And yeah, it's like at most maybe 6 pieces of plastic to include extra, so I'm kind of with him on this. Yeah, I think Transmetal characters, even though I'm not a big Beast Wars guy, I think Transmetal characters are totally easy to do. We got Pyro coming back. He said, if you ever forget to bring out Machine Wars Hoist, I will check your batteries. That is a fact. If I ever forget to include Machine Wars Hoist, then you know that it's not me. Also, small aside, I lost Machine Wars Hoist one day, and I was like, I had like a legit like kind of anxiety attack because I couldn't find him. I was like, oh my god, where is he? I can't find him. He was on top of, like, I have this toy wall behind me, and he was actually on top of that. But he says Agent Fowler is one of the only good human characters in Transformers media. I believe that's a Transformers Prime guy, I guess, if you think so. I'm a fan of Professor Sumdac myself. I really think he's one of the best and most interesting Transformers, like, humans that we've gotten. I think his relationship with Megatron is interesting, how he is like working for Megatron, doesn't know, is regretful, and then is captured by the Decepticons and forced to reverse engineer a space bridge because he understands Cybertronian technology. I think he's really cool. I think an agent character is kind of whatever, but I also think most of Transformers Prime is mid. Some more takes. We have Lord Gigai saying Transformers Animated is mid, and that is blasphemy here, Gig. But I get it. I mean, Transformers Animated 100% is not for everybody. It introduces a lot of new things, a lot of new concepts, and it is a very different take because you have the Cyber Ninjas, you have the Elite Guard, you have the complete re-ranking of how Prime and Magnus work. And you have so much different lore that it effectively is a whole different thing when compared to the other Transformers. The only thing that they really keep together is the fact that they turn into cars and things and the characters' names. Yorha says Energon is the best cartoon there is. That is false. 100% false. Energon is, oh boy, that's a rough one. Lord Gig comes in here with a big, huge list of things. The first one is a take that we actually see quite a few times on this list, which is either that the movies aren't good enough or that they get too much hate. And his is the Michael Bay movies get too much hate. A few are quite good as popcorn action flicks, and the attention and money they brought to the franchise is still fueling the success we see today. 100% agree with this. I actually really enjoy Dark of the Moon, as I mentioned earlier. I know people who really like the first one. I honestly think Revenge of the Fallen doesn't get enough hate for what it is. It's not a great movie. 100%, yes, the live action movies in general did revitalize the franchise, and I think the first one kind of saved Transformers, or at least introduced a whole lot of people, including myself, to Transformers into the broader light, because I just thought it was an old cartoon that was still getting toys randomly. His second one is, I'm fine with giving Prime and animated figures the G1 treatment in Legacy, Bulkhead and Knockout rule. I also agree. I think a lot of the new Legacy toys for the Prime and animated shows are really good. Bulkhead is great. RC is a little rough. Knockout is a great retool. The animated Optimus is my toy of the year right now. He's so good. Animated Bumblebee, great. Animated Prowl, fantastic. Like any of those guys, any of the Legacy animated toys are really, really good. Follows that up with saying, as I said above, animated is mid. The art style had no staying power. The world building for the series made it stand out like a sore thumb in the rest of the franchise. The toy line had a lot of stinkers who people praise it often forget, and its fan base is annoying, and the show has been over for 15 years and people still complain about no season 4. It's done, it's over. So there's a lot here that we kind of covered a little bit ago. Yes, I agree that it is very different. The art style was very, very stylized. You do see people cover Transformers animated like art styles and things every so often on Instagram and Twitter. So I don't totally agree with that. But yes, the world building does make it a very different show. I mentioned that earlier. He does say the toy line had a lot of stinkers, which I asked him for examples. He pointed out that the Cybertronian Megatron was really bad. I agree. That figure is kind of bad. It sucks. It's not good. He said that Lugna is too small. And then he pointed out Blitzwing, which I was a little little confused by, because Blitzwing looks like how the toy looks in the show. He also did mention Starscream, which, yeah, that Starscream toy is not great. Yeah, I had that one as a child, and it's not very good. But there are a lot of really good figures in animated, and it is one of the most accurate toy lines. He then brings up, of course, that people still complain that there's no season 4. As someone who is a Transformers animated fan, as much as I would like a season 4, I actually think just a movie wrapping up some of the stuff would be really nice to see, or even just like a 40-minute special, something just to round out the show. I think that would be nice, but at the same time, it is over. We're probably not getting any more of it. Who knows? And it also seems like Hasbro and Transformers as a thing doesn't really want to go back to those older shows. They want to just keep making new shows. I agree. Stop talking about Transformers Season 4. It's not happening. He also says Energon's toy line Decepticons are some of the best ever. I don't know who some of the Energon Decepticons were, so I can't really speak on that. I'll have to look into those. Rise of the Beast was not any better than the best Michael Bay Transformers movie. I disagree with that. Rise of the Beast is way better than Dark of the Moon. Way better than Dark of the Moon. And then he says Prime as a show was trash that had try-hard energy throughout. I also kind of agree with this. I don't like Transformers Prime. It's very Bayverse influenced. It's very slow to get started, and I just don't care about it. The designs don't look good. I'm not a fan of the human characters. I'm not a fan of how the humans interact with the Transformers. I'm not a fan that the entire show really functions, and the high points aren't really high points, and it ends on the stupid Predacon thing, which is not very fun. Alex Paiza says most G1 figures are pointless to own now that we have better articulated versions with modern engineering. 100% agree with this. I'm a big like G1 is no fun guy. Like that's something I say quite often when we're sitting in voice calls. I don't like the G1 toys. I think they're boring. I think that they aren't fun to handle. I've messed around with some G1 stuff, but honestly, if I'm being truthful, the G2 stuff is a lot more fun. Hooligan and of course like the Machine Wars Hoist, these are really fun toys with ball joints and actual engineering and like real articulation, and it's when Transformers in my opinion started getting good. So yeah, if you're looking for vintage Transformers from like the early eras, go with some G2 Cyberjets or some of the Flip Changers. 100% agree with you here. Binding of Burger King says that he thinks Prime sucks and Prime Starscream is the worst Starscream design. Yeah, I don't like the Prime. I don't like most of the Prime designs. I think Soundwave looks kind of cool. Like Soundwave looks kind of cool. Megatron looks kind of cool. And the RC is slick, but I like it a lot better when it's Flame War. So yeah, I can't disagree here. I think Prime isn't very good. Lord Gig coming in with even more hot takes. He says, I don't think it's bad to use visual language we understand to be feminine to code characters as feminine. Windblade, RC, Minerva, Alita, etc. have slim bodies and design cues we recognize as female as not a bad thing. The freak out over Flame toys doing sexy Windblade or RC is overblown, and he says this as a gay man. I kind of agree. I love that Flame toys Windblade. The Flame toys RC looks really cool. But yes, I also think that a girl Transformer looking like the stereotypical woman is perfectly fine. I actually really like the new Legacy Alita mold, the Minerva mold, because it gives her like big boots while still having like more rounded thighs and a smaller waist. Like I don't want to like come off and say like all women look like this or say anything like that, but I think using stereotypical feminine design cues is not necessarily a bad thing. I do think that if we are gonna get like big bruisers, where's Strika? That's all I'm saying. I think that I agree with him here. He says IDW's continuity has problems, creating so much morally gray narrative soup that no one actually emerged as someone you wanted to root for. The various writers didn't understand how to write Optimus, and it's evident because Skybounds do. Yeah, I'm not a big IDW fan. I've read most of Lost Light, and I gotta say it's not a great romp. There's a lot of things that I don't like about IDW. I'm notably a big Cyclonus and Tailgate hater. I think that that's awful. I don't like the depictions of Optimus Prime in there. I think Autobot Megatron in IDW is bad because he's a maniac in that continuity. He's a very bad person. So yeah, I don't think I agree. I agree with this totally. He also says that he doesn't like Tarn of the DJD, but that's for personal reasons. Completely understandable. There's characters that I don't really care for, or things that I don't like, and a lot of people disagree with me on. Burger King comes back and says Chug isn't slop right now. We just spent so long in the War for Cybertron trilogy that 13-year-old fan base isn't used to 5 out of 10s. I kind of agree. There's in every toy line you see, there's going to be really high points like Animated Optimus, and there's going to be kind of low points like Armada Hotshot. So Legacy definitely is in that share of like, why are we getting some of these, but also like these guys are great. You have to take the good with the bad. There's gonna be figures like Shadow Striker that aren't great, and there's gonna be retools like Sideburn that aren't great, but they're going to be next to figures that really are, like Cybertron Hotshot. He also says that the 13 Primes is the most useless addition to the Transformers franchise, aside from a few cool characters, makes any media that touches it suffer. I kind of like the idea of the 13 Primes. It adds that whole mythical aspect of the Transformers. It gives a little bit more like history to the Matrix, but at the same time, I think a lot of the reason the 13 Primes are so overlooked is because there's no great way to write them. We're still in an era where we're trying to adapt the aligned continuity more, and other media is ignoring it, while some media is trying to embrace it and do new things with it, but no one is doing it right, in my opinion. Alex Paiza also comes back and says, Earthrise was good, just the distribution was terrible. Yes, Earthrise distribution was bad, and I also agree. As someone who was collecting during Earthrise, those are some of the best figures in my collection, and like Earthrise Optimus, Wheeljack is great, Sunstreaker is great, he was hard to get a hold of, Hoist, Grapple, like all of those are fantastic. The Bumblebee and Cliffjumper mold, all of those are great. So like, yeah, Earthrise was really, really good. He also says Omega Prime isn't a good HasLab. It's okay to be wrong, Alex. It's fine. All right, and that is all of them from the Discord. So we're going to go over to the YouTube comment section now and see what you guys had to say there. Starting us off with the YouTube comment section ones, Zombie Fire says Transformers and humans getting into romantic relationships is only weird if you make it weird. No, it's always weird, and it's wrong, and it's bad, and anyone who ships Transformers with humans is wrong. That's my take on it. I don't think that's a thing that should really happen. Every time it comes up, it's weird, and it's always weird. Editor me put that clip from My Strange Addiction with the dude fucks his car.
Love you, baby.
Season 3 Galvatron is unironically the best iteration of Galvatron. Yes, I love Season 3, just tyrant Galvatron, where he's just crazy and just like beating on his own dudes. He has to go to the therapy planet. He's so goofy and fun, and one of the best parts of Season 3. 100% agree. Here's a real hot take. Max MC says the G1 Megatron design is boring. I kind of want to agree on this. I've been messing around with who is this, G2 Megatron the last few days, and yeah, as someone who's seen like what they can do with Megatron, I kind of like that he has like the shoulder cannon instead of a fusion cannon. That's kind of cool. Bayverse movies are trash. Some of them, the last two are really, really bad. The first 3 kind of hold a soft spot for me, especially the first one and Dark of the Moon. Those ones are pretty alright. But yeah, I mean, those last 2, Last Night and Age of Extinction, are hard to sit through. Lumine777 says Bayverse is overrated and one of the worst things that's seen the light of day in the franchise, but it's one of the best things that has seen the light of day in the franchise. We have good things and very bad things on this. Yeah, that's kind of the thing with the Bayverse movies. You got to take the good with the bad, and you know, we wouldn't be where we are with Transformers if it wasn't for the Bayverse movies. I do think they should have stopped at Dark of the Moon. I really do think, but it is what it is. Bumblebee, we got Bumblebee because of it, and we got Rise of the Beast, and we're probably getting Transformers 1 because of it. It's one of those things where it's like a lot of great things has happened because of those movies, but we've also seen, you know, really bad takes like Skids and Mudflap from those movies. Devil Within says, I like some of the designs from RID 15. That's fine. I think that Starscream design is really, really cool, where he has like almost a coronation gear look to him. He's a little bulkier. That looks really cool. And that Soundwave too, where he is a little bit more Cyberverse-y, like that's pretty sick too. Legacy's Shadow Striker sucks. Yes, it does. It's not a very great toy, although if you have to get one version of it, I think the Shadow Striker one is the better version, not Sideburn. G1 Megatron should turn into a war crime. No, he should be a tank. I'm sorry. It's way cooler when he's a tank, and it works better. It makes more sense that he's a tank. I think he should be a helicopter, a dual rotor helicopter all the time, but I'm also an animated stan, so. Human characters in Transformers media is overrated and shouldn't be included, and they're also cringe. Typically, yeah, I agree with this. I think humans are really boring. I do like Noah from Rise of the Beast. I think he's one of the best humans we've gotten in media. AOE in the Last Night Optimus is the second worst design for the character. What's the first? What's the first worst design? I agree. I don't like Night Optimus. He's bad. It's an ugly look, but yeah, what's the first worst design? And then he says Rumble is blue and Frenzy is red. No, Frenzy is blue, Rumble is red. Why would it be R? Why would it say why would they start with R if they're not red? No, you're wrong. But that is it. Those are your Transformer hot takes. Let me know if you have any others down in the comments below. Maybe we'll make this a monthly thing. We'll see. We'll see what we do. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this in the comment below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video over here, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. This has been Bots Obsession.